Have you checked the children? You're a little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Bienvenidos, Freud fans. Welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Jaime and Fuego.
Robert Duell.
And we are back for another patron-requested video. None other than Heather Briley. Much love to you, girlie. Thank you so very much for the constant support. We greatly appreciate it. And this is a Soska Sisters film from, you said
2012.
2012, yes.
Yep.
And,
American Mary.
American Mary! Don't want to get copyright here. Yeah, despite the fact that I believe they're Canadian in origin and most of their stuff is filmed up there, but nonetheless, this is an interesting just culmination of obviously body horror when you hear us talk about premise and overall impressions, but there's some comedic aspects, dramatic aspects, and yeah, it's a lot of the Soska Sisters stuff that I've seen, whether it was the movie with Kane, I know it was one of the See No Evil films.
I think it was number 2.
It might have been 2, yeah, but they also did the remake of Cronenberg's Rabid that we reviewed on here that I actually enjoyed more than I was anticipating. Their stuff is hit and miss with some, but this is probably my favorite of the films that I've seen them behind, especially being an original idea and just a great performance. I forget the name of the actress, but she was
Catherine
in
Isabel.
Yeah, she was in Ginger Snaps. I think that's what most people remember her from. A few other stuff, and she's
Freddy vs. Jason.
Yeah, she's very well known, at least in that regard, and I immediately recognized her, and she really brings it in this, and she has an interesting arc as far as her character goes, from going from medical student to almost like, you know,
It's basically.
I guess backwoods isn't the proper term, but
black
underground,
market.
black market,
black
like,
market
kind of,
body modifications and surgeries.
Yeah, and she just, her prowess rises within the dark web and stuff, and we'll get to that more so in the story. But I was actually impressed with this film. I didn't like over the moon love it or anything, but it was like very solid storytelling, and dare I say, it's almost.
Oh, dare you?
Yeah, well, dare, because it is very, very infrequent that I say that there is nothing new under the sun, and that I rarely, if ever, encounter a horror film that's very different in a lot of ways than anything I've seen before. I hadn't really, and maybe there's similar stuff out there, I'm sure there is to some degree, but this was a horror film unlike any, at least exactly like this, that I had ever seen before. There's a lot of copycats out there. There's a lot of stuff that cops previous ideas and doesn't really try to deviate or innovate, and this one was impressive in a lot of ways to me. I didn't find the ending as satisfying as I was anticipating, but overall impressions, I really like this, and it's my favorite thing from the Soskas that I've seen thus far. How about you, man?
I will definitely agree on the thing of it's the more enjoyable thing from the Soska Sisters that I've seen. I still haven't gotten around to the Rabid remake yet. I'm still weary on that because the original was really, really good.
Oh, Cronenberg, another classic Canadian horror director, body horror director too.
Yeah,
his son's still doing it now too. Yeah.
But no, overall, this was a very enjoyable movie. It was one that I kept seeing on, like, between the streaming services and whatnot. I always liked the actress Catherine Isabel, especially from the Ginger Snaps movies. That was, I think, I think that was the first thing I saw her in.
Even before Freddy vs. Jason?
Yeah, and then it was Freddy vs. Jason after that. But no, for the body horror aspect, what we got in this movie, it was done well, and I definitely enjoyed it. And it turned into more of like a revenge movie.
Yes.
Towards the third half, which did really well considering some of the events that happened earlier, and yeah, it was pretty messed up.
Yeah. But
at the same time, you're rooting for her as she's going through all this. She basically gets her revenge, but she gets so deep into this world of modifications. She's getting new clients, new people are coming to her, and everything like that. And she's getting some really oddball requests. And
also some totally pussy ass requests too. That she like.
Yeah,
she shoots these guys down.
Yeah,
you know, they're like, I want like a little of this, and she's like, the hell do you think I'm here doing?
How about some piercings? Are you kidding me? Like,
that's not what I specialize in.
Exactly, but no, like, for overall, just real quick, and we'll jump into the story here. But overall, this is a very enjoyable movie. the graphics, the gore's it for what we had and everything. The graphics very well done. It wasn't overly heavy-handed, especially on the aspect of she was a medical student, so you kind of have to keep that realism for what the things she's doing, and I thought it was executed very well.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I'm right there with you, man. In story, we've touched upon some of it already, but the key crux to what ends up happening in this is that she is a medical student, but she is down on her luck as far as like barely having enough money to pay rent, and she is looking at some sordid ways, possibly in the sex industry, to actually continue paying. She doesn't want to like get on the bang down, but taking some clothes off, doing some weird stuff for people with kinks. I know there's a lot of female friends of mine that do OnlyFans, they're not taking their clothes off. They're showing feet. They're doing just weird stuff.
This was a very heavy S&M movie.
Yes.
Very was on the underground like sex club aspect.
Yeah. This could have, if we had a Cenobite slants. This
actually
could have
probably
fit into the Hellraiser universe, and the only reason I say that is because we reviewed all of that stuff recently, and as I was watching this, I'm like, man, this could have been retrofitted and like brought in some other stuff.
And what's funny though is like with the tone of this movie, it probably actually like Fuego said, it would have been easier to write in like the Cenobites into this than fucking what you got with number 5.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? Hell something? Inferno.
Dude, yeah. All of those titles were lost on me after a while, and I even was looking at the
one with
viewership
Boone
on all those.
It's one with Boone from Nightbreed.
Yeah. Still very, very enjoyable film though, as she descends into the dark underbelly of. So she goes to this strip club, and she thinks that she's going to be performing some weird flogging or like whatever, and it basically turns into her medical expertise, especially with the fact that she's studying to be a surgeon, turns out to be insufferable for some sort of craziness that she could be utilized both to inflict punishment on some like mob, and to just people who owe certain mobsters and whatever, without getting too much into it. And it builds from that into a business of body modification that becomes incredibly popular on the dark web, and the dark web is obviously a little bit of a newer thing, almost a decade ago, but her notoriety spreads. She's trying to maintain an anonymous, just sort of visage, but there's lots of people who start to speculate, and they're like, oh, how do you have all this nice shit all of a sudden? What's going on? Including a few of her professors at the university where she's studying, and
which leads into
what you mentioned,
the revenge aspect of the movie, which I think elevated it story-wise a hell of a lot better than what, if that wasn't in there. And don't get me wrong, I don't advocate for what fucking happened.
Hell no.
But for story-wise and everything, it definitely helped to elevate and to get behind this character a lot more and the reasons of what she's doing.
Yeah, and actually for me, elevated it beyond. I don't like this sort of like rape, revenge, without getting too much into it sort of stuff. Like, I don't like I Spit on Your Grave, even
one of the more
even
the
Revenge,
Revenge,
the French film. Yeah, Last House on the Left.
Yeah.
But the thing that I will definitely give this film credit to is it was less cut and dry and less like just. Some people, for instance, love the French movie Revenge because it is so just lean and mean and basic in the fact that, it's like raped, killed, left for dead, back, kills, boom, whatever. There's a lot more nuances to this film. There's a lot of other like pieces in play as far as the mob aspect, as far as like the guy who owns that strip club who's like kind of in love with her, and yet she is sinking deeper and deeper into her depression and her obsession with revenge and loss of friends, and also the people that she meets and modifies, and just spreading the word in the interactions with all those people, including the weird Betty Boop.
I was just about to say, the Betty Boop character and everything.
That girl freaked me out, man. But
the crazy thing like that and everything, you guys have seen that we have actually like the Barbie and Ken, the real life body mods and everything.
It's like straight up eunuchs almost.
In a sense, they become so much plastic by the end of it. Yeah, and honestly, I like that character. Just again, going back to the realism of, well, for one, for a damn fact these surgeries are happening in like the underground, if you'll call it that.
Yeah.
So there's that, but I don't know, like. Want to just jump into effects real quick?
Yeah, the last
might
thing-
as well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
We've already
It's
kind of
a-
hit on the story.
and the acting as well.
Real quick on the acting. Obviously,
Yeah.
everyone was good. Like we didn't really have any shortcomings personally.
Yeah, the overacting of the Betty Boop kind of character and the friend that she
But it
brings in
fit.
and stuff, it did definitely fit because she was trying to actually embody that properly, and so that's why I don't know. But
He's so
yeah,
cute.
it's terrible, right? It's terrible. And yet I did feel a weird caring connection between the guy who brought her into this and maybe some of his regret.
Oh,
at
most definitely. You
everything
saw that toward
it had
the end. Yeah.
exponentially gone to, and then also that some of those nefarious, medical professors and stuff that actually make her turn the corner. But the lead actress is fantastic.
Oh, most
Yeah,
definitely.
she owns this role, and she has such a compelling arc, dude. Of her that. Dare I say, it's not even so much a fall from grace because when we meet her, she's kind of down in the dumps. But then it's kind of like that crescendo sort of situation, the peak and valleyness of finding fame, but yet encountering all of the negativity.
But that realization
that's
that
associated
I've gone
with it.
too deep, and now it's how do I even get out of this?
Yeah, can I even
Yep.
escape, sort of thing. And so yeah, that was definitely compelling. And just one last thing, story-wise, just to jump really back to that because it just occurred to me as we were talking about the acting. This is a film that, while made in 2012, for a lot of friends of mine that have transitioned or non-binary, whatever it may be, I know a lot of people, myself included, are still trying to understand a lot of this sort of stuff about major body modification and how you identify yourself and whatnot. I'm blessed in the fact that I have felt very comfortable in my own skin for the most part, but I know a lot of people aren't. And I feel like this is a film in current times that is much more significantly relevant in that regard because of the fact that they show the maybe personal positivity at times of those sort of transitions, but also that there is a price paid as well, whether it's physical pain, emotional trauma, whatever it may be. And so it's very fascinating that this didn't feel like a super one-sided sort of narrative in that
No, most
regard.
definitely.
It showed various different viewpoints, and so
And again too, that comes back just real quick on the writing, like on how you're writing your characters. And I will say they definitely did a good job on giving each character something new that you can kind of grasp onto on just different characteristics. And certain characters, again, it might not be everything about the character in anything, and not even just this movie, just movies in general.
Yeah.
You just little characteristics that you can basically understand, like where they're coming from and stuff like that. Like what he was saying, that being we're gonna get back to this. This is a whole new can of worms we don't want to get into.
It is, and that's my fault for opening
No,
it
you're
up,
good,
but
you're
I feel
good.
like this movie had to at least give the acknowledgement of that that comparison. But really, the segue there is what you tried to do, where I
you're good.
Where I veered us off.
Oh,
and
you're
the
good.
fact that seeing the physical manifestation of not only some of these changes that our character, this American Mary, as she becomes to almost be like a I guess pseudonym isn't the proper word, but an alias. It's what people within the dark web, without getting too into it, start to kind of know her as and champion her work as, and seeing her art, is it's fascinating. It's maybe gross for some, myself at times included, but yet also making somebody who has tormented you into a piece of art as well. Like what happens in that transitionary bit where she turns that corner after being wronged so significantly, and what happens to the one who wronged her without really getting into it, and keeping said character alive, and the actual effects of what that entailed.
Because again, they mentioned
Damn.
multiple times she was an exceptional surgeon, and she was very promising.
Yes.
So she was very crafty in
Just
all
my
the
type.
sense of the word, very crafty.
Just my type.
Yeah, right. But no, going jumping into like the effects.
Yeah.
So it goes back to what I was saying earlier with that the realism of it. Nothing seemed really too heavy-handed. It was that natural. It's like, well, this is going to be the gore of what a surgery would be. You're not going to have like the over amounts of the 10 gallons of blood and everything like that. But it was tasteful.
Yeah.
If we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it.
Nothing looked cheesy or campy.
Yeah, no, not at
It
all.
was very well produced. Like,
Yeah, and this is where maybe not everybody will understand this, but I mean, I would hope you do. It wasn't gory, but it was definitely gruesome. If that actually makes sense.
nauseating.
Whether it's like switching arms around or whether it's taking off a nipple and then grafting skin from another part of the body to just have a breast, but without that sort of life-giving little epicenter.
And I like how you bring that up and everything.
You
'Cause
know,
we do
I
have
thought that was fascinatingly
that
frightening.
character. Basically, she is tired of being looked at as the sex symbol.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the whole thing of originally what I was saying with like the Barbie and Ken doll thing.
Yeah.
So she
And
wanted.
that's where I was talking about the eunuch aspect. Like,
Uh-huh.
oh,
So
they're
it-
sexless. They're like a mule, for God's sake.
So basically, that's what her request is to become, in a sense, a eunuch. She wants no sexual parts visible for the eyes.
And that's not to say who or when, but it's an earlier, really fascinating from a visual, like, effects and graphic standpoint, turning point.
And it's that mental self-satisfaction and everything, kind of like what Fuego was talking about earlier, and just that how you see yourself,
Feel
and everything,
comfortable in your own
being
skin.
comfortable, exactly. And again, I don't claim to understand all of it, but be damn accept for what I can.
Yeah, and as respectful as possible, since it's not something I can relate to as much, but I can definitely empathize and just be like, damn, I can only imagine the extent of that. And but yet, as you said, it's tasteful in its gore or the lack thereof. It's not,
because there's an odd morbid beauty.
There is.
Like,
which we kind of got from Hellraiser in certain situations too. You know, that whole like the pain with pleasure with the blood, with the suffering or I mean, some don't even perceive it as such. I mean, getting piercings, tattoos, any sort of body modification. There are some that get,
it's a form of pleasure.
It is.
Yeah.
It's just like a rise within you, the adrenaline. I mean, it's definitely explored very thoroughly here. So
don't get me wrong, I love my tattoos.
Props to Soska
they
sisters.
They can hurt, but I love them at the end.
Yeah.
I won't bullshit on that. Like, getting tattooed hurts. I don't give a shit. All right, guys. I think though about pretty much wrap it up for this review of American Mary.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Heather Briley. We love all your suggestions.
Yes. And I do have to say, I thought the music was cool too.
Yes, we never did touch on that and everything.
And we can end it briefly.
Yeah.
In the fact that there was, I mean, most of the stuff the Soskas do has like kind of this industrially like kind of goth like metalness to it.
But I will say they do
sorts.
know how to fit it well enough in their movies.
Yeah. It's not overpowering in the process, which I really appreciate. Tasteful in the selection and stuff, and it just gives an additional heaviness to some of those bits where either revenge is being extracted or somebody is being vindicated from the flesh they were born with. So.
Yep. I think we're gonna end it up on that one. But
nice.
Thank you guys again. And if you want to become a patron, link in the description down below. Don't forget to hit that like button. Ding that little bell to see all of our pretty faces. Get all those nice notifications. But other than that, I've been Robert Duell.
Gracias, Jaime and Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.